Guys, so today I will be going through this quiz in this course called Ethical Hacker Summer Camp. Yeah, basically it's within the summer, and in this second module, which is called entitled like planning and scoping a penetration test and assessment. I'll be going through the final quiz for this module. Basically, when you want to take this quiz, you have to go through all the material of this course, which is a lot, I'm not gonna lie to you. Anyway, let's get started. I just went ahead and started with the first one, my bad. Basically, for this first question, a contractor is hired to review and perform cybersecurity vulnerability assessments for a local health clinic facility. Which US government regulation must the contractor understand before the contractor can start? So, basically, we have like a lot of regulations in here. You must be familiar with all of them. I'm not gonna dive into explaining what each one of them like stands for, but I'm just gonna tell you something that when you see something related to health and they are asking about regulation, basically you have to immediately think about HIPAA, because HIPAA basically stands for like Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's a regulation that regulates anything related to health record systems and stuff like that. Go on to the next question, which is an Internal Revenue Service office in New York has considered moving some services to a cloud computing platform. Which US government regulation must the office follow in the process? So I'm gonna explain another one, which is the answer to this one, which is FedRAMP. What it stands for? Basically, FedRAMP in here, this is like the answer, and it stands for the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program. It regulates anything related to IRS. So yeah, I won't go into too deep, because if you want to, you could just go back to the content or course material of this module. The third question would be: a U.S. University California plans to offer online courses to students in partner universities in France and Germany. Which regulations should the university follow when those courses are offered? So again, we have a lot of regulations you need to be familiar with. I'm just gonna go ahead and give you the answer, and which is GDPR. GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation, because this is like international level, and the international level, basically we use the GDPR. Question 4, we have: which US government agency is responsible for enforcing the privacy consumer? So basically, for this question, it's the Federal Trade Commission. Again, go back to the course material. Question 5, in the health sector, which term defines an entry that process non-standard health information it receives from another entity into a standard format? This is what we call the healthcare clearinghouse. Basically, it's like an entity that processes any non-standard health information that it receives and turn it back into one standard format, so it could be usable across all the entities of the health sector system. Again, let's go to the sixth question. We have: in the healthcare sector, which term is used to define an entity that provides payments for medical services? Again, we will be using the healthcare clearinghouse as well. What it does, provides like payments for medical services, such as like the insurance companies, government health plans, government programs. They do all of these services. Basically, this is like their primary job. Seventh question. In e-commerce, what determines the application of the PCI DSS requirement? This is the primary account number, or PAN. We use PAN like in short. In the eighth question, What are two examples of sensitive authentication data associated with a payment card that requires compliance within the PCI DSS? You have to choose two. We basically, I don't know if I should explain this because it's gonna take a lot of time. We have the CV, this one. It's a lot of standards. For example, the CAV2, it's card authentication value 2, or CID stands for card identification number, or CVC2 card validation code. Basically some standards for companies. For example, CVC2, it's a MasterCard one. CAV2 is Visa one, and stuff like that. There's like the second one, which is full magnetic stripe data or equivalent data on a ship. The ninth question would go to match the parts. I would go with best practices. B, I would I'm not sure about that, but let's hope it's correct. The employee of cybersecurity consultant in the US is assigned to help assess the system and operation vulnerabilities of several financial institutions in Europe. The task includes penetration tests for compliance. What is the key element the employee must have before starting the assignment? I always say that before starting anything or any assignment, you have to make sure that you are protected by the law. This is why I would go and choose the documentation of permission for performing the test from the client institutions. For example, if someone caught you or something, you doing like your tests, or someone has something to tell you, or I don't know, you have to present like a certain paper that you have the authorization to be working or to be performing such tests, stuff like that, 11, we have company hires a cybersecurity professional to perform penetration tests to assess government regulation compliance. Which legal documents should be provided to including quality of work, timeline, and costs? I would go with service level agreement. Basically, it's the documents the explain or has into it the expectations, the constraints, the quality of work, the timeline, the cost as well. 12, my bad. 12, I guess it's the same, but this time it's more concerned about the delivery schedule, the location of the work, and the payment schedule. And for that, we use the SAW, which is the statement of work. 13 is, I would say, it's obvious. Basically, the consultant has some confidential information about the company, and he has to sign some type of NDA. So what type is it? Because like in NDA we have like 3 types. I'm not gonna explain a lot of it, but let's just say that there's like 3 types of NDA, and there's like the unilateral, which concerns only one party that has to keep the secret, or bilateral NDA, which both have some confidential information about the two, and they have to keep it safe. There's like multilateral NDAs, mostly between companies or business partners, etc. In this case, it's unilateral, because only one, which is the consultant, has to keep the information confidential. 14 now. We were 14. Company hires which document? Which document in this case? I would say it's a contract. It's obvious. No, 15. 15, we have a company. I'll leave you to read. But this is basically called disclaimers. It's basically telling, or you are abided by the law to be putting that disclaimer, telling that the company, they are not immune to like attacks because they just took you in to do the expertise or like the exercise. Even after the exercise, they are still in danger of attacks. They just made it. Maybe they could have mitigated the risks, but they are still vulnerable. 16. Let's go with 16. We have to choose 3 options of what the engagements document in this case has to englobe in it. Basically, if you read the content, you would answer this immediately. It's the testing timeline, location of testing, and preferred method of communication. 17 now. You basically have 2 companies, and you're not supposed to be doing some social engineer attacks, cross-site scripting, XSS attacks. Which element in the document is used for the specification? Basically, types of allowed and disallowed tests. Because companies, when they want to perform an exercise, you have something called a scope. Scope basically something is basically you're not supposed to do some stuff, because some tests may be good, but some other ones may be destructive. When we say destructive, it's like revenue for the company, so they don't want to break things, but rather make it more secure. Now 18. Company hires, basically APIs. This is like another subject concerning the API and how we document web interfaces. Should the company provide about an XML based language used to document a web service functionality? Basically service, I would go with web service description, because they are asking about documents, so these 2 are not documents. I would immediately just cross them. We have this one, which is the service, web service. 19. API runtime. I would go with GraphQL documentation. Basically, most of the developers out there would be familiar with GraphQL. It's like a query for APIs. It is also server-side runtime for executing queries and using type system to define your data. Yeah, I'll leave you. You could look more into it, like more details about it. I'll leave you a link below. Question 20. We have in here, what do we have? Such as web service database servers. Which documents should the company provide to help the consultant document and define what systems are in the testing? Yeah, so basically it's system and network architectural diagrams. Company hires a cybersecurity consultant to perform penetration tests. What can cause scope creep of the engagement? Basically, ineffective identification of what technical and non-technical element will be required for the penetration tests. 22. A company hires a cybersecurity consultant to perform penetration tests. What should be the consultant's first step in validating the engagement scope? Like I said, you have to, first thing first, always protect yourself and protect the company along the way. When you're protecting yourself, you are basically protecting the company as well. So I would go with question the company contact person and review contact. Why? So you would know who to contact in time of like distress. I don't know, if you have found something that is dangerous or something in your tests, etc. You have to know who to contact about it. You have to know the right person to contact. Okay, move on to the next question, 23. So in this question there's like a lot of protocols. I don't know if I should, is it like my place to be explaining, but I'll just give you what they stand for, and you could look into each of them like in detail after if you'd like to. So basically the question asks, a company hires a cybersecurity consultant to perform penetration tests. The consultant is working with the company to set up communication procedure. Which 2 protocols should be considered for exchanging emails securely? Starting off with the first, CSP stands for Secure Copy Protocol. Then We have the PGP, which stands for pretty good privacy, and the third one is FTP. I believe most of you are familiar with this one, secure file transfer protocol. Then we have HTTPS as well. I believe you are familiar with it as well, hypertext transfer protocol. And S for secure, because we have the HTTP and the HTTPS with like mini versions out there. To be honest, just explaining this protocol, there's like a lot to say about it. I'm not gonna lie, and I don't think I have the skills, the skill set, or like I'm in place to be explaining about it. But definitely there is like a lot into it. The final one, or like the last one, is the SMIME, which stands for Secure Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extension. So, long story short, my answer would be immediately I would check this one and the PGP. Now, for next question, company hires a cybersecurity. They're trying to consultant discussing about the benefits, which statement describe the term unknown environment. Basically, unknown, you are trying to simulate an external attack, someone who is not familiar with the company's network or anything, and you are trying to simulate if it's gonna work or not. So this is the right answer. The type of testing is where the consultant will be provided with very limited information about the targeted systems and network. Number 1, the last question would be, a company hires a cybersecurity consultant to perform penetration tests. What is the key difference between unknown environment and known environment? Yeah, it's basically the amount of information provided to the consultant. And now let's submit and see. Oh, yay, 100%, cool.